Hey, welcome to Dan's Model Works, and it is part 3 of our Chevy Astro van, and we're going to be finishing it off, and there's a fire truck sitting here. Okay, I guess we better go over to the small clutter zone. Just a little teaser, the fire truck, which is going to be the Father's Day tribute this year, is coming along. It will hopefully be ready by Father's Day. Hopefully this video is going to be going up before the fire truck video for Father's Day. Just a little teaser for it. Let's head over to the regular clutter zone. All right, that's better. We're over at the small hobby bench, which isn't where I was working on this last, but the fire truck takes a lot of space, as you can tell from that other scene. So the body has had lots of time to dry, and the gloss coat has set up, and I'm really happy with how shiny it ended up being. Oftentimes when you're using metallic paint, it doesn't look very shiny, so I ended up giving it quite a few coats of Tamiya gloss coat. So my next step, I'm going to do more work on the interior, but I want to make sure that whatever work I do inside here is going to show. So this comes with tinted glass in the back. So before I do any more work on the inside, I want to put the glass in place. However, I don't want to put the glass in place until I'm done doing most of the work to the body. So we've got some door handles that had to be painted, some trim has to be painted. I'm pretty sure this segment here gets painted black. I'm not sure about this one. I'll have to look at some photos. But this handle will have to be semi-gloss black as that one. So I just want to get a lot of the construction work on the outside done before we determine what's going to happen on the inside. So I just went and looked at a whole mess of Astrovan pictures online, and I'd say about half of them, maybe slightly more than half. Basically, this whole area is semi-gloss black, or actually high gloss black probably. Some of them, the B pillar and the C pillar, is body color. They all have this as body color. But I think it just looks a little bit better having black in these areas here, so that's what I'm going to be doing, especially seeing as the windows are tinted. And at the same time I'm painting that out, I'm also going to do the door handles and things like that. So here's our grill, and it's all chrome glory. What I'm going to be doing is putting Tamiya panel wash all in the grate areas here to try to tone that down and give it some depth. So most people will be aware that newer vehicles have got this blackout trim around the windshield, and oftentimes on the other major side windows or tailgate windows and things like this. So on this particular model, they delineate those areas with a little bit of frost, but it still should be painted blacked out. So I've used tape because I'm not that good at drawing nice straight lines with paint. So our front window is in, windshield. I'm not sure how I feel about the side glass. I'm used to there not being side glass in for the front windows, but as a plus side, we're not going to get dust getting inside the model and being impossible to get out. But I am kind of used to being a little bit more visibility. So there is our piece inside. I did use super glue to hold that in place. I think we're safe with doing that because there's lots of space, lots of atmosphere for the glue to off gas. So I do have some sun visors I'm going to be installing in here. I'll get to those next. There's our rear glass in. I've painted the inside of these turn signals silver because the lenses themselves are clear and they're going to have to be given a coat of red clear. I'm keeping this upside down once again so that there's plenty of opportunity for the super glue to off gas. Last thing you want to do is flip it over and leave it that way. and for everything to accumulate. I know we don't have these pieces of glass in yet, but why take the chance? I hate trying to film big pieces of chrome like this. The very ends of the bar down the center, you can see that the chrome has been damaged. That's where it was attached to the sprue. I'm going to put a little tiny piece of bare metal foil on there. And you can probably see that I've just put little dabs of orange in here. That's because this type of front turn signal is clear and it just has an orange bulb in it. So we want to try to replicate that. So I'm not happy with this. The yellow turned out too yellow. Well, I'll just throw it away then. The yellow turned out too yellow. So I'm actually going to pop these parts off. Hopefully, maybe give them a light sanding and put them back on again. I want them to have a hint of yellow, not nearly as solid as they look. So I've done the right hand side. I basically gently sanded the back of the lenses to knock off as much yellow as I could. And then I actually painted over the orange bits with a little bit of silver paint so that they're almost opaque. And I think that looks a whole lot more like what we should be seeing. Just a hint of color there, but mostly clear. So I'm going to do the same thing to the side. I'm going to pop it off, lightly sand it, and paint out most of the orange that's supposed to represent the bulbs. I think that's about as best as I'm going to be able to do on here. So I've glued my sun visors in place, and I'm going to be taking the same interior color I used here, and I'm going to be painting this whole surface plus those sun visors. So what I've got here is, these are the mirrors for the Astro van, and these are the mirrors for the fire truck. I'm going to do them at the same time. And I could use bare metal foil, I could just paint them silver. What I'm going to use is this candy bar wrapper. It's actually an overwrap, and it's about the same sort of material as chip bag material. So that works too. This just was quite a bit less crinkled than the chip bag material I had on hand. So I'm just going to super glue the mirrors onto this, of course label side in, and then I'll trim it later. So here's one of the most nerve-wracking parts to put on, especially if you've got really shaky hands like mine. We've got the rearview mirror, really nice looking part, and the windshield even has a very faint ghost of the spot where you're supposed to glue it on, which is rather nice. Well, it was nerve-wracking, but it's in. As you can see, I've touched up the ceiling paint there to be what the rest of the car's color is. So I just have temporarily put the interior in. And you can see what's going on in there, but it's not easy. And I did have some plans to put some stuff in there. The main thing I was going to do is I was going to put I think I was planning on putting a hockey bag in there and a hockey stick. But I don't think anything back here is visible at all. So I think I'm basically going to leave it to some cups on the cup holders and things like that. Anything else I put in there I don't think is going to be worth it. I mean, in person you can see in there better than on the camera, but it's still pretty dark because of those tinted windows. So I ended up going with simplicity for the interior because, as I mentioned, I think in the last cut, we're just not going to see that much through the tinted windows. So what I did is I put a coffee cup and a fast food cup up here, put another fast food cup there, and then basically assuming that these are kids who are sitting in the back, I put a couple of Mad magazines back there, you know, like keep them quiet while they're driving. And the Mad magazines, I just basically went online, and there's a whole websites that pretty much have every Mad magazine cover ever published, so I just downloaded the image and photoshopped it to reduce it down to this size. Actually, they're fairly legible. I mean, this one right there, I actually have that one. I guess I could have scanned it instead. That's the one where they're parodying Back to the Future. So, I have glued the tub onto the chassis. Whether this is a good idea or not, I don't know. Every time I've test assembled it, I've put the tub in first and then the chassis. It should go in all right. It's just there's nothing to keep the tub from kind of rattling farther up in the body than it should. So I wanted it attached to the chassis. We will see. So there it is, all done. Chevrolet Astro van, or Safari van if you wish. Safari being the General Motors Corporation version, or GMC. Although I used Astro badges. And this basically represents the van from its mid-90s redesign through to the end of production. It's 1/24th scale by Fujimi, and the kit came out in the early 2000s. Really no serious issues with the assembly. Believe it or not, I think the hardest part of putting it together was putting that silly roof rack on. That gave me a little bit of difficulty. It was a nice, enjoyable build. I didn't have to do a whole lot of weird stuff to it. Although if you watched part 1, you would see that I did mill out around the engine compartment just to make it look a little more 3D. Fujimi gives you both the regular Astro and Astro 4-wheel drive badges to put on here. I just used the regular Astro ones, mainly because there's nothing else that tells you it's 4-wheel drive. And to be honest, I forgot to put the half shafts in for the front wheels. So it isn't really 4-wheel drive. Once again, that's something that nobody would be able to see anyhow. I will have some still shots coming up in a second. And before we leave off, I thought I would just put a Caravan beside it. Now, the Caravan is in 1/25th scale versus 1/24th scale, which is a small difference. Not enough that you could say, oh, it looks smaller because it's in a smaller scale. The Caravan was a lower van and a slightly smaller footprint than the Astro van. The Astro vans were probably about the largest of the North American minivans, and that's reflected in its height and its length and its width. I think even in terms of the footprint, it was larger than the Aerostar by Ford. But it certainly looks the part. So thanks for watching, and until next time, just keep on modeling.